Hello, everyone. This is Deb with the UAP Medical Coalition. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in this video belong solely to the speakers and not necessarily to the UAP Medical Coalition, its employees, volunteers, or allied associates. All medical references are for informational purposes only. This is not a consultation or a therapy session. This content can be triggering for some and is not meant for children. Thank you so much for coming today. Lori, can you please introduce yourself to people so they know who you are?
Sure. My name is Lori Rehfeldt. I'm a retired Army major, and I saw a UFO. Had an experience back in 1980, and it has definitely affected my life. And um, so I'm still grappling with the effects, to include PTSD, and yeah, mostly that.
Okay, for those who are not familiar with Lori's account, I do recall that it was at a base very close to Rendlesham, which many people are familiar with.
Mhm.
And I believe it was Eastgate. Is that correct?
Yes. Oh, if you want, yeah, I wasn't thinking about adding. You said keep it brief, so I thought, okay, this is what. Yeah, I saw it. Yeah, it was this. Yeah. It was in 1980, and it was actually on RAF Woodbridge, which is butted up against Rendlesham Forest. And so this was 6, 7 months before the um, the Rendlesham Forest incident. And that's why I call the incident that I had, because it was at Eastgate, the Eastgate incident. And what there were a few things that happened during those few minutes. One, I did experience lost time, um, maybe about 2, 3 hours, and I also experienced. I would actually say feeling like somebody altered something in me, like my brain, altered my reality, and which is really frightening. Being at the two bases, the 2 years I was there, I had experienced feeling like a gravitational pull. Something was pushing down on me, and it was really cathartic talking to a fellow airman who really had similar experiences that I talk about and that I've gone through. The other thing is having the effect of changing your reality, being altered, that it's different than the people next to you. Even though you're there and you're experiencing the same thing, it's when your five senses don't match up at all. And that leads to people in big disagreements and fights. And I really think that's what's happened quite a bit through the other, all of us airmen. We all experience something very different, even at the same time. And so I just think that, you know, that something was, I'm not saying physically put in me, but whatever was the sophisticated being had, um, was able to probably change a lot of what's inside of me. And some of the effects that I've had was feeling like that disassociated. Like sometimes I feel like I'm not in my body, and that's really kind of disturbing. And I do have really bad panic attacks, and so yeah, and I just think that what happened is like kind of like we were part of um like a lab rats, being experimented on, and I still kind of feel like there's something out there that's watching. And I'm not talking paranoia. I'm just talking as if they're keeping an eye on us.
Okay, so you described some of the physical effects as a sense of like a gravitational pull potentially something altered in your brain,
Mhm.
and of
Mhm.
course, lost time. And some of the psychological issues were some sense of dissociation and panic attacks. Were there any other physical effects? I believe you have told me before that you lost consciousness. Is that correct?
I didn't lose consciousness at that during the UFO during the event. I did. I'm trying to think. I I just there was just if there was no consciousness, it was during that 3 hours of lost time because I couldn't figure out how we went from being at 0300 hours in the morning to being almost 7 o'clock in the morning, and it was daylight. And it was so subtle. I mean, that too was a problem. The other thing too is that at Bentwaters, I also lost. It didn't take long, but it's as if my body was changing, and I lost my stamina. Here I was 18, 19 years old, and I had difficulty standing up because again that was that gravity push on my body, and I was getting light sensitivity. That I mean, England, it's very cloudy, and I was walking around wearing sunglasses all the time because it was the light just really hurt my eyes. So yeah, so there were a lot of things like that going on. I had put on a lot of weight, and it was as if I was just changing. It was like morphing into someone I didn't even know.
Okay. And did you ever get to see a medical doctor about the UAP incident?
Yeah, I did when I was going for my VA disability, and I talked about all of this, and I was able to get 100%.
Okay, so that's actually something very interesting because we're very concerned about veterans being able to get benefits after a UAP exposure. So they
Mhm.
heard that there was a UAP exposure and gave you your benefits without difficulty. Is that correct?
No, I wouldn't say it was without difficulty. I probably had to resubmit my papers about it took about almost 15 years. I mean, it took a long time. And I just had to keep, resubmitting my paperwork in order to get it. And I was the last person I talked to who was a psychologist who actually listened to me. So was it easy? No, it was not easy. I was determined though to get it because of what I went through, and it was other issues that had gone on. I'd also been sexually assaulted and several other things throughout my time in the military. So there were a few other things going on. So I don't know if it was just solely the UAP UFO, if they would have gone with it. But when I was in front of that psychologist, I didn't hold back anything.
I
I was
apologize that you went through that during your military service. That's appalling, first of
mm.
all. Um, how did the psychologist respond to you reporting these incidents with the UAP?
um well, he just took down all the information, and I was just telling him at that point, difficulty that I was having, even maneuvering through my day-to-day stuff in regard to um, you know having difficulty, like for instance, not being able to drive on the highway, and having to get around creatively in order, figuring out different ways of managing my life. That I was really afraid that my whole life was going to start getting, starting to shrink. As for what my abilities of what I could do and couldn't do.
Okay, so were they open-minded when you spoke to them?
I think he was, but I don't really think he. he didn't elaborate anything except for what I shared with him. So it wasn't as if, I was getting any kind of, what do you call it? That he could relate to it, that kind of thing, or to be able to, say it. I mean, when I brought it up, I was feeling a little uncomfortable about it because you know, once you say UFO, people, think, yeah, okay, yeah, okay, and you try and explain that you weren't by yourself, it was corroborated, the whole thing, and it's just, yeah, yeah, I was having to defend myself, sure.
What would you have liked to have gotten in terms of assistance from both the medical doctors and the mental health professionals?
Yeah. Well, with the VA, they do this cognitive kind of approach. They gave me a book, and pretty much it was, change your behaviors. So, once you see something, don't take responsibility for things that are out of your control and whatnot. I really felt like I needed I needed a different approach. I needed somebody to listen and to be able to be sympathetic, and to, you know, help me explore and understand what I went through and to be knowledgeable of some of the different incidences of UAP incidences that occur with the military. Because I think personally, everyone that's had an experience, it's just not using the five senses. It goes deeper than that, and it's to the point that it reminds me of, when you go for a colonoscopy and they give you that medicine that it's like a light switch, it goes off and on. That our brains are that, and our being is that malleable that they could alter so much. And you can't even look at time, or you can't look at things that are what most people would consider, how we should approach the world as, okay, I'm outside, the weather is warm, okay, there's a breeze, and all this stuff, because your reality has just completely been slanted. It's just been, it's like you've been put into a different dimension or something.
Okay.
It's not what most people, I think, experience. But there was one other thing I was going to mention about that. It'll come to me.
Okay. I guess the most important question that we should be educating professionals about is what has been helpful for you, what has been healing for you, and what has helped you process these things that were happening.
For me, what's been healing is being able to talk to other airmen that were there during that time frame. I've got, I mean, it's a huge, not huge, but quite a bit of people that I knew, and they know about my UFO story, and reading about, say, some of their stories, with, say, Larry Warren, who wrote Left at Eastgate. In fact, I some of the things that I noticed, there's a lot of correlations between my experiences and say his experiences. For instance, one of them has to do with these beings communicating, to me, through my mind, and it seems like there were several times where it's happened with others, and you could say, well, you didn't speak to them. I'm like, no, I didn't have to. They pretty much, sitting at Eastgate, when I shared with you about, the gray that was behind me, it was sort of, you know he said, I don't want you to be scared, or she said, I don't want you to be afraid, just sit face forward. And I did. I was like, okay. I said, because I was tired, I didn't want to, I didn't want to be scared, and so that helped because I knew if I turned around and saw something, I would never want to be out at Eastgate, and that was probably one of the most terrifying places to be, especially in the middle of the night,
Mhm.
working the gate, and and it was the same thing, I mean, that to me is I would want to know from the medical community, how is that possible, or why did that happen, or more importantly, why isn't anyone sharing with us? There's got to be similarities with other, people, other patients, other airmen, other service people, or who go through these events, and um, no one's telling us that you you know that we did really go through something. I mean, 'cause sometimes you're fighting it, saying, it could be all in my head, but then when you're, again, when reading what others have gone through, it's cathartic. And I'm not sure exactly what medical doctors could do. I just think that, from what I gather, I watch a lot of those medical shows. I have a feeling that, they're more, the whole five senses. They're not going to look at intuition, or they're not going to look at, I mean, like these people that have near death experiences. You could be a medical doctor and have it, and the other doctors are going to look at you and like, well, you know, we have no, proof. We have no data on it. We have no whatnot, and so I really don't know. I know that I haven't been treated in regard to medical treatment, the way I think I need it, but I really would need to understand more. If they have a frame of reference, and to be able to say, okay, this is the situation, this is what we find happening. Everyone is different. However, um, yeah, lost time. What what that is, what that means. Has it affected my DNA? Has it altered me in other ways that I don't know? Is this going to be something that, others will find out 100 years after we're dead, that it was similar to something like Agent Orange, or something that was, we were poisoned, or we were part of an experiment? I mean, I yeah, I've thought of those things. Most of the time we're looking at what happened. Um, and yeah, and it wasn't benevolent. It wasn't a good experience. I wish it were, but
It's so what I'm hearing is you would like for the medical community to come up with a set of tests or assessments. The word battery of tests comes to like the battery of
yeah.
tests comes, so that they have some protocols when someone has a UAP encounter
Hmm.
to treat them.
Yes, and to look at, the physical parts, even to look at medical records that went back then, because the government has them, and to be able to compare, what happened, or what, um, as for, the physiology of who we are, and where we were with our, say, confidence level, and doing certain things versus, over time, what was, I really kind of, like I said, I kind of think that I feel like we were like these little rats in a test, and expendable, and that's a drag.
Right, and that's a big impact on one's psyche to think of that experience that way.
Hmm.
Um, and I truly hope that you will continue to find more people who can talk to you about this, and vice versa, because as you said, that seemed to be very healing for you to have
Hmm.
support from other people who have experienced the same thing. And I'm hoping that the medical community will come up with some protocols and assessments that they can use across the board. And another thing that you hinted at that I think we all would like is some more transparency on this
Hmm.
topic, because that will definitely help us get further with helping people.
Absolutely. And I mean, these are, the people they should be looking at too are the ones that have, I mean, if there's, being scientists, look look to find out what the patterns are with what all the different people that have, whether it's the Navy, the pilots or whatnot that have seen, witnessed the UFO. Because I think a lot of times what they end up having to deal with is more or less being a whistleblower versus, hey, look, I've been affected by this. It could have been a UFO that was maybe several hundred feet away from them. But the question is that how did that affect them? Because it did. And that's one thing that I would say 100% that everyone that has ever seen a UFO, uh, those are the people that really need to. They're all going to need help. I mean, we all are. I started putting my VA disability forms that I filled out. I actually filled it out in 2005, and it took me till 2019 to get that. Um,
Mm, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so it wasn't fast, it wasn't easy, but I was determined because I knew something. I've known that something's happened, something changed me, and I know that, um, and it's as if it's as if I've been given more information in my mind. I just kind of think there was a download. I mean, I know Jim Penniston had the ones and zeros, the binary code. I just think that we've each had something given to us or downloaded, and most of the time we don't even know the right questions to ask. Um, so I don't know. Maybe there needs to also be some kind of like hypnosis or that kind, to get more into um, the layers of what's inside our brains to bring the subconscious up to the consciousness level.
Okay. Okay. So, do you have any last minute things that you want to say to mental health and medical doctors about helping you unlock what happened to you
Mhm.
and to just um, help others?
Well, I would say to take it in, to not treat us like, well, it's doctors are treated now more as if they're on this McDonald's, and they can only spend a certain amount of time with people. I just think that they need to spend more time with the patient to really understand what's going on, and uh, yeah, to do more reading about the what's going, with the whole UFO UAP, but look at it that this is what's going on, and it is going into people's um, DNA, and to understand the when all of a sudden information, and it's real and it's been corroborated, and it's like, I don't know how I knew that, but I mean, it's kind of like, oh, that's fun, but no, it's not. It's kind of scary that that there are powers out there that can really, that our brains, like I said, can be so easily manipulated, and um, yeah, I would want them to understand, uh, to delve into that part to understand, um, yeah, the sixth sense, the intuition, what you know.
I understand. And hopefully, the people watching this will do the research to understand a little bit more. Can you please let people know where they can find you if they want to talk to you more about this, or if there's a place that they can reach out?
Sure. They can reach me at my email. I don't really mind at Lori LORIETR at gmail.com, and I'm on Facebook, um, and I'm yeah, yeah. Or they can also check out my YouTube channel if they're interested in, because I do talk a lot about this on my channel. Um, God, aliens, and a cup of coffee, and my new one, my new channel. I'm really changing it to is Lone Ranger Cosmic Cafe.
I like both.
Thank you.
Yeah, I
I
like both of
appreciate it.
those titles.
Thank
Thank
you.
you again for coming today and speaking to me. I really appreciate it. If anyone wants to know more about Lori's account, she has done several interviews and gone into it in more detail. But again, we really were emphasizing today the need to get medical and mental health professionals on board to help with incidents like this. And Lori is just one of many people who are reaching out asking for that help. So thank you,
Yes,
Lori, for coming and speaking on behalf of a lot of people today. And thank you for coming and speaking to me.
you're very welcome. And Deb, thank you for doing what you're doing. And I truly admire you for spending your time, your life, helping us, helping those who had these experiences.
And for everyone who's listening, thank you very much. Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Bye bye.